I'm Raymond Singleton, Omicron Phi Chapter, Columbia, South Carolina. Hello, everybody.
Good day, Brother Singleton.
Hi, Brother Daw.
Good to see you, sir. What we're going to do is just ask a few brief questions to go over your history and intimate narrative of the organization, and give you an opportunity to blaze a trail of history as you normally have. One of the first questions I want to ask, when was the first time you noticed Omegapsiphi fraternity?
I grew up in Sumter, South Carolina, not too far from here, about 44 miles east of here. And my family was in business in Sumter. We operated a service station, was in that business for, 35 years. And being a minority business, a black business, you got to know everybody in town. We were patronized by a lot of good people, a lot of the doctors, lawyers, professional people, teachers. And so if you ask me, how did I know Omega and how was I introduced to Omega? By the patronization of a lot of the professional people who lived in Sumter, because fortunately enough they patronized our business. I would see these little stickers on the cars. I'm out there washing windshields and putting gas in cars. Back then it was full service, not self-service like it is now. So you notice certain people. So if you ask me how was I introduced to Omega, it was the people that I was fortunate enough to be able to be around and actually to know. And most of the professional people in my little hometown of Sumter were members of Omegapsiphi fraternity. The doctors, the lawyers, the teachers.
Well, that leads us into the next question. What or who sparked your interest in joining the organization?
Well, I mean, when you see the kinds of people that I spoke of, the professional types, the high school teachers, the doctors, the lawyers, those kinds of people that I was fortunate enough to be able to interact with. I knew from a very early age, I said to myself, well, if that's what those people were involved in, and they were successful professionally in their jobs and what they did for a living, then I need to follow that same path. So from the time I was probably 12, 13 years old, seeing those kinds of people and knowing what they did for a living and knowing the organizations that they affiliated with, it sort of sparked my interest that perhaps I need to be involved with that organization as well.
Brother Singleton, now we come to one of the most important parts of the organization. When were you initiated into Omegapsiphi?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I'm glad you asked me that. May 14, 1970, which means I celebrated 50 years, in this illustrious fraternity, the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, 50 years. I was looking forward to going to the banquet and everything in Tampa. But of course, we know because of the pandemic, we had to do everything virtually, but that turned out well, very well. They did an excellent job with the conclave. So 50 years, May 14, 1970, Sigma Theta Chapter, Voorhees College, Denmark, South Carolina.
Brother Singleton, now leads us to another great question. Who were the influential brothers when you were first initiated into the organization?
Oh my goodness. At Voorhees College, I was fortunate enough to be mentored and tutored, if you will, by Brother William Clayton Marshall. Brother Marshall was from Walterboro, South Carolina. He was head of the business department at Voorhees College. Influenced me a lot, taught me a lot, as well as Dr. John Foster Potts, who was the president of Voorhees College. Brother Claude Green. Brother Green was the head librarian at Voorhees College. So just a few of the people who, when I matriculated at Voorhees after having served 3 years in the U.S. Army and a year in Vietnam, ended up at Voorhees. Those people sort of took me under their wings and told me what Omega was all about, and actually were instrumental in what little bit of success I've had in life, quite frankly. So those three men in particular were really instrumental in teaching me and nurturing me and letting me know what Omega Psi Phi fraternity was all about.
Brother Singleton, you discussed your military service, and I thank you for your service. The one thing I want to cover, I want you to describe the political climate during the time of your initiation and a few major world changes that were occurring at that time.
Now, I graduated high school, Lincoln High School, the Lincoln High School in Sumter, South Carolina, if not the best, one of the best high schools in the state. Of course, that was during the separate but equal era in schools in our country. Graduated in 1965. Graduated in June of '65. In July of '65, I raised my right hand and swore to obey the Constitution and defend this country against all who might do it harm. Ended up in the U.S. Army. Did that for 3 years, 1 year in Vietnam. So the climate was one of a lot of unrest. Schools were being integrated. The movement was against the Vietnam War. So a lot of stuff was going on. We all remember what happened at South Carolina State, the unnecessary violence that took place down there with law enforcement unnecessarily killing 3 young men, 3 students at SC State. So a lot of unrest, a lot of uncertainty. So a lot was going on during those particular times.
Brother Singleton, we've discussed your military service, your initiation. One thing I'd like to know, when you initially joined Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, what impact did the organization make on your life from day one?
Oh my gosh. When you've had the opportunity to be around people, some of whom the names I've mentioned, Dr. Potts, who was the president at Voorhees, William Clayton Marshall, who served, was grand chaplain of the fraternity. When I was fortunate enough to be in Epsilon New Chapter in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and be around C. Tyrone Gilmore, who ended up being Grand Basileus, I think the 34th Grand Basileus of Omegapsiphi fraternity. When you're around people like that, it goes without saying that you're going to be inspired. They teach you the meaning of success and why it's important to be successful in whatever your endeavors might be. And when you see all of that, when you see how successful these men have been, and I've only named a few of them, then it has to inspire you and motivate you to want to be the best you can be.
What offices and/or positions have you held within this illustrious organization?
Well, I've not had many positions of authority, not as many as perhaps I could have had or should have had. I was fortunate enough at Sigma Theta chapter at Voorhees College, being on the chartered line there. In 1970, the first line, there were 12 of us, the Dirty Dozen. I was fortunate enough to be the first Basileus of the chapter. In Epsilon New Chapter, I've served on social action committees, Mardi Gras committees, those kinds of things. So by and large, in terms of my service, it's wherever I've been called upon to do things, I've always offered myself to make myself available and assist at any and everything that I was needed to do.
Well, with that being said, now comes one of our greatest questions, and I'm sure my younger generations will want to know this. How much has the organization changed from the date of your initiation to present?
Well, just like the world is changing, our fraternity, the Omegapsiphi fraternity, is having to keep pace with innovative kinds of things, with technological kinds of things. We're having to keep pace with that. For an example, MSP has been a major change, and one of the bright spots, as far as I'm concerned, we need to get more with the educational part of the fraternity, and a little less of the other physicality part of it. When I came along, frankly, there was perhaps more of the physicality part. The education was there, but with MSP, I am so blessed that we are concentrating more on the educational part, what the fraternity means, what our founders were about, and that sort of thing, and concentrating more on those men who have offered themselves to be a part of our organization and learning as much as we can about them and what they are adding to this organization. So with that, I think our future as a fraternity is bright. The more young people that we can bring into it, the better off we're going to be.
Brother Singleton, last but not least, I want you to give a message to the brotherhood.
Brothers, let's just stay true to our cardinal principles: manhood, scholarship, perseverance, uplift, and we want to continue to recognize and bring in those brothers that we feel adhere to those principles of our fraternity. The educational part that I've mentioned before, we want to continue to do our best to adhere to those kinds of things. Our future is bright, and as long as we continue to be creative and be true to our principles, we'll be fine. Thank you very much.